Hello, I'm Charlie Taylor, and welcome to Chapter 2. While this video is primarily dedicated to the discussion of electronic eavesdropping and the detection of those devices, it's important that you understand that there's just many other ways that intelligence is collected. So let's briefly discuss these threats. During my years of providing TSCM services, it always amazed me to discover how much sensitive information was left on top of desks and credenzas overnight for anyone to read. I'll never forget one job in particular that involved the proposed hostile takeover of a company traded on the New York Stock Exchange. During my TSCM inspection, I discovered the official solicitation offer by the other company laying open on the CEO's desk. The information contained in that letter was mind-boggling, and if I had been a little dishonest, I could have made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, without going into much detail, the stock nearly tripled in the next 2 weeks. And stories surrounding the takeover covered the Wall Street Journal and other investment and business newspapers and magazines. All right, here's the point to the story. When I walked into the CEO's office that night, I had to wait until the unsupervised janitorial crew finished cleaning his offices before I could begin my work. And the janitorial crew was part of a bonded service that cleaned offices throughout the city. You know, just because a janitorial crew is bonded doesn't mean that they're a reliable source to trust with your highly sensitive information. As a matter of fact, most anyone can be bonded these days. It's interesting. Companies spend a great deal of time interviewing and checking the background of a clerk who will be assigned to an area with absolutely no access to sensitive information, and yet have absolutely no idea of who the lowly paid members are of the janitorial crew that has access to their most sensitive information unsupervised every night. By the way, this company has spent significant dollars on controlled access systems and on-site security officers. So it was not that this was a company that was being totally negligent about their security issues. It was simply a matter of being really ignorant of the actual threat. The idea of being able to bribe a member of a contract janitorial crew to discreetly take photos of documents left on her desk or to collect the daily trash is very realistic. I personally believe that a $10,000 cash payment would probably be enough to influence most any contract janitorial crew member. This leads us into the discussion of some industrial espionage techniques that are used to collect business intelligence. Frequently, these techniques involve bribery, blackmail, trash collection, and other techniques that don't even require the bad guy to ever enter sensitive areas. I'm going to share with you two war stories that I think are really relevant to this issue. A few years ago, a corporate espionage agent was retained to discover the money sources behind a blind corporation proposing to buy a Fortune 500 company. This blind corporation was led by one of the nation's most prominent lawyers, which made it a very challenging task for the agent to discover this information. So the agent put on his creative hat and began to work on how to discover which employees worked in the same area as the lawyer in question. I won't go into details about how, but it took less than 2 days for the agent to discover most of the names, and he did it all over the telephone. The agent then began a 3-week background investigation on these employees in an attempt to learn as much as possible about each one. He then narrowed his list to 2 employees and began a basic surveillance to monitor their habits and to learn more about who they were. Then he targeted the employee that he thought was the most vulnerable and had the most lonely lifestyle. Okay, I'll leave out the juicy details about his whining, dining, and trips, but in less than a month, she had given him all of the information that he sought, and then he disappeared. What amazes me was how easy it was, and according to him, that she was simply a very pretty woman who was very lonely. My other story deals with a private investigator I know and a very prominent married businessman who was having an affair. Again, without going into the details, this man took a trip with his secret lady, and my investigator friend followed. During the 5-day trip, the investigator became friends with the couple and even had them pose together for more than a dozen photos. I guess the point is, beware of people, because you never know who is befriending you. Another point here is that there's simply more stuff going on out there than you have any idea. Because less than 6 weeks later, the pictures my investigator friend took were stolen from his client, which was a law firm. I still wonder to this day about who stole the pictures. Another attorney, an employee inside the law firm, a member of the janitorial crew, or a professional bad guy who illegally broke in the office. I've shared these two stories with you because it lays the groundwork to several important issues. The first one is that people are simply people. None of us are perfect, and many of us have secrets or vulnerabilities which can be exploited and manipulated by trained professionals. I assure you it happens every day. The second issue here is to clear your desk and lock up sensitive information before leaving your office, and take the time and money to buy locks that are difficult to pick. All right, to wrap this up, you should be aware that a significant portion of industrial espionage activities centers on using the employees of the target company. They are typically your weakest link in even a good security plan. All right, the next chapter we're going to talk about how big this problem of industrial and economic espionage really is. I'll see you there.